So Dustin Johnson has just won the Masters. He put on an absolute exhibition of just all-round incredible golf, and today we are going to look at three things that he does in his golf swing that makes him so good, is unique to him, makes him hit the ball so long, so consistently. These three things have come directly from Butch Harmon, Claude Harmon, and his team. Things they've worked on, things that, have helped him massively, and I'm going to be sharing them with you guys to maybe help improve your golf. And if you're a Dustin Johnson fan, maybe try and copy his swing a little bit more and help you hit the ball further, more consistently, and play some better golf. So guys, what did you think of Dustin Johnson winning the Masters? Comment down below. Were you expecting it? I mean, he was the odds-on favourite, and it was incredibly impressive how well he played. So the first thing we're going to look at in Dustin Johnson's golf swing is his takeaway. This is something that came from Butch Harmon, which he said he has been working with DJ for years on this, and it's something that he's maybe struggled with in his takeaway, which has led to less consistent golf, and then has really helped him when they've got it more dialed in. So this should really help improve you with your golf. So Dustin Johnson, we know, has a very kind of closed grip. We know all these things, but in the takeaway, Dustin tends to get this club a little bit too away from him here. He gets his arms and everything a little bit disconnected from the body. We all know he gets the arms super high up there. We'll talk about that in a second. But in the takeaway, Butch has worked with keeping the arms a bit more connected to the body, still getting this huge wide takeaway, but just not getting quite so out here, not getting everything disconnected from the body, because that can kind of cause sequencing issues. You can get too deep with the arms, get stuck behind, have to early extend, and get too underplaned then on the way down. If you imagine, you see a lot of amateurs basically who take the club way inside and then come over the top on the way through. Well, Dustin has basically struggled with the opposite. He used to hit massive draws. Now he obviously hits fades, so he likes to see the club working kind of a little bit outside and across the ball, but he tends to struggle with getting the club too outside on the way up. Then he gets too underplane, and then he hits pulls and draws, and obviously Dustin likes to hit that kind of absolutely power fade out there. So the next thing we're going to talk about in Dustin's swing is the iconic bowing of his wrist, the arm structure at the top of the backswing. And this is something we all know about, but actually, how does it work in Dustin's swing, and where does it originate? Butch has worked with him since he was a really young guy, and it was really funny actually. Butch Harmon said on commentary this week that when Dustin first came to see him with his dad, his dad said, "Oh, what are we going to do about this super closed club face, this bowed wrist?" Dustin's dad, by the way, is a PGA Tour pro. He came to Butch and said, "What are we going to do about this?" And Butch said, "Well, we can fix it, but then we might never know who he really is." So what Butch meant by that is, well, we can give him a more traditional swing, but then we're not really ever going to find out what his natural swing and what he really could become with this kind of natural athletic movement of his. And basically, DJ likes to feel that the club face is always square throughout the swing. So this originated because Dustin Johnson likes to feel that when he's set up to the ball and he takes the club away, that he's basically keeping the club face pointing to the target as long as he possibly can. So that's why you get this super closed face here, and then as he takes it to the top, that face is basically pointed to the sky. So that's what makes sense for him. That's why he's always done it. Obviously, most of us like to see that face a little bit more kind of on plane, matching up with that left wrist. But Dustin's a little bit different. He likes to feel the face is as square as possible, and then as he swings down, he just has to turn through, and the face will just always be square. So that's to do with the wrist. But the other matchup and important thing with this is his arm structure at the top of the backswing. He gets his hands exceptionally high. It's not something I would really want in my golf swing. It wouldn't really work for me for many reasons, but it obviously works for DJ. He's super athletic, and it matches up with that closed club face very well. It allows him to have a slightly longer swing, get a bit more range of movement, and have a slightly more athletic swing. So when I say his hands get a bit higher, he tends to get his hands so he have this huge wide takeaway, and then he get his hands way above his shoulder plane here, probably about in that position. It's a bit of a struggle for me just to get in that position there, and that allows him to just start swinging down, really shallow the club out, and get into a super athletic position as he comes through impact. Now, one more thing with that left wrist, the way it works in the golf swing, which is really important to understand if you were going to have a really closed wrist like that, is that Dustin's wrist doesn't work traditionally how a golfer's would. So normally you would have a hinge in the wrist, and then you would be releasing that hinge as you're rotating your arms. So it would be this sort of motion there in a kind of traditional golf swing, releasing the hinge there as you're rotating the arms in that way. Dustin's doesn't work like that. Because he has this super bowed wrist, you can't kind of release it that way, and then if you flipped it from there, you'd never get the ball off the ground. It would just be going left, duck hooks all day. So how does Dustin's wrist work in his release in his golf swing? So he gets this super high hands, bowed left wrist there, and as he swings down, if I face this way, he actually more cups his left wrist. So instead of it being this motion here, he's actually making this motion here. So he's actually, it's more like, feels more like a scoop to me. And that's why you see, as he comes through impact, he kind of gets in, goes from super closed to quite an open club face, which kind of keeps it square. And then that's why you see the kind of arms staying very connected to his body, and as he swings through, you see that kind of iconic, really low hands, arms position in that kind of classic DJ iconic finish. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is how Dustin's body works through the golf ball. It's really important to understand that Dustin is about 6'6", a super athletic guy. His arms are so long, his wingspan's longer than his height. You know, he's a very athletic guy. He's been into a lot of sports, played basketball, and you know, was considering being a professional basketball player. Thankfully for us, he chose golf. And so he's a naturally athletic guy. He also spends a lot of time in the gym working with Brooks Koepka and a trainer called Joey D down in Florida. And you know, so he puts in hours and hours in the gym, working hard on his body, on his strength, on his mobility, flexibility, and speed. So it's important to understand this, because if we were going to try and copy this motion, it might not work for a lot of us. I know it probably wouldn't work for me because I'm not as athletic as him. I haven't got the mobility and flexibility, and also just my body shape is different. I'm not as tall, I'm not as long arms and limbs and everything like that. So that is important to understand. But Dustin has probably one of the most athletic golf swings in the world, and there are some things we can learn from it. So, as he takes the club back, he has this huge, big hip and shoulder turn. That's kind of how he coils up his power. He creates such a huge turn. I physically cannot turn my shoulders that much. He would turn, if I face you this way and turn my shoulders, they're pointing, pretty much back towards the ball. But Dustin's, I'll move my foot so I can make this motion. His would be pointing about here probably. I just cannot get into that position. And he also has a huge hip turn as well. So he turns deep into that right hip, loads up on that right side there. Let me get the arm structure right. A lot going on in this golf swing. About there. And then from there, he really can rotate hard, load into that left side now, and then turn through the ball there. Now, if we were going to try and copy this motion, what would we need to do? Definitely warm up a lot before you try and copy it. Work on your fitness, work on your mobility. But you would basically want to feel like, from this angle here, front on, like your right hip drops back as much as possible, so there's no sway. You're loading this way instead of this way, if that makes sense. So you're loading kind of back into that right side, getting this shoulder turn as big as possible. Really feel that pressure in your right glute, and then from the top of the swing there, then feel that you stay in flexion. There's a bit of squat into the ground, stay chest over the ball. This is something that Butch talked a lot about, that he works on with a lot of his players, and you can see Dustin Johnson does it perfectly. Keeps that chest over the ball. From this way you can see it a bit better actually. Keeps his chest over the ball, staying in flexion there, and then turning through and finishing the swing. Honestly, it's a tough movement. It's not a movement that 99% of us are going to be able to make with that left wrist, with that arm position, with the way his body works. It's incredibly athletic. It would probably break my back in half, but it is something to behold. It is really a special movement, a special golf swing, and obviously Dustin is a very, very special player. If you guys have any questions about anything I've mentioned here, or you think I've missed something, or you want to know more about Dustin's golf swing, just comment down below, let me know what you guys think. Remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and grip it and rip it.